Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Solskjaer. How you all doing? And today I've got a very special guest. It's Omani Mancunian, my man. What's going on, bro?
Hey Sal, good to speak to you and finally hear from you. It's
Finally,
been a
dude.
while in the make. It's been a while in the making, and I'm happy to be back. Speaking with yourself and doing a little bit of content and talking football and all things life. And so, yeah, really good to be back.
Yeah,
Missed it.
thanks for coming on, man. Yeah, I used to watch your podcast, man. Yeah, it was a really good podcast. I used to wait for that podcast. I used to watch it. What's going on with your podcast, bro?
Thank you so much. No, I mean, to be honest, you put these types of contents out there, and you don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get, and also you gain so much from the interactions that you have offline with people like yourself, and you were an avid listener and tuning in into the content back then. And I was so grateful for you to do that, and it's a little bit of a funny situation now that mashallah, I'll say that your platform has grown so much since then, and I always knew that you had in mind actually to do a lot of work on Stratford Post and take it into a YouTube platform, and so it's great to see the fruits of that happening and bearing at the moment. On top of that, it's just I know that that was something that I wanted to actually involve you in at the time, and it's great that you're involving me in this as well. So yeah, I know what's going on with the podcast or the YouTube channel in general. Where I think it's fair to say that I've taken a bit of a hiatus since then. I'm still continuing on Twitter, of course, and other social media platforms, constantly watching United. But at the moment, it's just with coming back from that part of the world, not being in the UK or Europe in general, as well as a very hands-on involvement in terms of work. And the line of work that I'm involved in is very different from producing videos and football content in general. That I'm just having that difficulty in terms of being able to balance the two. But it's always a pleasure and a privilege to be part of these kind of interactions and involvements and conversations. Absolutely.
Well, you're very welcome, brother. You're from Oman, of
Correct.
course. So tell me about the popularity of Man United in Oman. Is there a big fan base over there? Do they have a big following?
Absolutely. No, yeah, there's a big following of United in Oman. I would say historically over the years, we would tend to actually watch more of La Liga matches, be it Barcelona or Real Madrid. And I remember in the early 2000s, there weren't many following the Premier League or Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, all these different clubs who were at the forefront of English football at the time. But now there is a big following, a big fan base, and through actually the work that I've done at Armani Mancunian and going to away matches a couple of years back, I've had the opportunity to be part of the fan club here in Oman, the official fan club, and the MUSC Oman Supporters Club. They're just very passionate about United. We've got a WhatsApp group going on. We've got different streams that we talk about United through, and it's just daily content. It's just them breaking down and tactical analysis and all that. And so I really enjoy it, and it's a very lively conversation. Yeah, but there's a big following here, and they travel to away matches, of course. Now, in light of the extenuating circumstances, a little bit difficult to do that, but regularly they would follow the club. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've seen you on other channels, the United Stand. I've seen you at the Fulham game. You wasn't
Correct.
you? Was it flying from Oman to Fulham? That's dedication. That's a
It
proper
is.
fan, isn't it? If there's such a thing, that's a proper fan. There you go, traveling
That,
4,000 miles to go and see United
absolutely.
against Fulham. Man, that's crazy. Do you have any plans to go and see United when they come back? If we come back, of course.
Most
After
definitely, most definitely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, back then, a 7-hour flight to Fulham was something that a lot of people thought I was ill-advised to do, especially in light of the fact that it was towards the end of Mourinho's reign at Manchester United that I got that ticket handed to me, and I was able to win it through the raffle, and I was very fortunate. I went there and had a good time, and it was worth it. The whole experience, speaking to United stands afterwards in the game. And I just love following United, regardless of which manager, the performances. Of course, I'm not going to be happy, and I'll be outspoken when we don't play well and we're not as ambitious as we should be. The big club that we are. But definitely, I do plan on going to the away matches or even the home games once things settle down and we're back to some semblance of normalcy. When is that going to happen? We don't really know, but we remain hopeful that things will subside in the near future.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Of course, being from the Middle East, you guys have got the World Cup coming along very soon now. It's hard to believe it's just a year away. Unbelievable. What is the vibe in the Middle East at the moment? I know you're from Oman. The World Cup's in Qatar. What is the vibe at the moment? And what do you make of these stories of negativity about human rights, etc.?
I understand it, and I validate the concerns and the fears and the discontent that I see on social media, or also some of the protests that have been carried out by the countries in the qualifiers. There's a lot of excitement in this part of the world about the World Cup. First off, this is the first time in the competition's history that it's being hosted in the Middle East and in an Arab country. So that's a huge privilege for ourselves, and it will be. We're looking at it or thinking of it as that gateway that the world's going to have, or sneak peek or insight into life in this part of the world, and how all these touristic attractions and these beautiful landscapes and gorgeous sceneries that we have and what we have to offer. In terms of the preparation, Oman is quite close to Qatar. I mean, it's an hour's flight away, and so some of the hotels actually and teams that will be in the World Cup will consider coming to Oman or the UAE or nearby countries as they do their preparation for the same climate that is in Qatar before the World Cup. So that's first and foremost. But apart from that as well, people are very excited because it's going to be a unique World Cup. All the stadiums, the 8 or 9 stadiums, are going to be within 50 to 90 kilometers away from each other. So they're all within an hour's drive, and you can actually watch the World Cup. You can watch 2 or even 3 games potentially in a day, and just move from one stadium to another in the same country. And so that's very exciting. Now, in terms of the human rights allegations, those are not, I would say they're not imprecise, they're not inaccurate. Having said that, Qatar was lagging a little bit behind on human rights from 2011 to 2017 or so. They have then since really put a rigid system in place from 2018 onwards to make sure that these things are identified. They've done the assessments in terms of the risks that are posed on the workers and the labor workers in particular. And they have made sure that all these things are not as as severe as they used to be. So I'm a little bit surprised how visible it is now in terms of like they've brought awareness to it and all this sort of like attacks on Qatar. I would have expected that to be a lot more severe back then when there wasn't as much systems in place, or many systems in place. But now it feels like there's this targeted effort to try to shed a light on a very important issue and a valid issue, but also something that Qatar has been actively working to mitigate and to address. And so, but of course, I don't want to speak on behalf of the country, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the nearby countries. But in terms of myself and my friends here, family, that we're all excited for the World Cup, and we cannot wait. I personally, inshallah, God's willing, will be going to it as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Inshallah. The World Cup. I mean, I remember I went to Qatar once. I landed in Qatar, Doha. Unbelievable place, really. At that time, you had to walk it to the airport. You had to get off the plane and walk it. It's amazing how far the Middle East has come, and it's really good to see, and for them to host the World Cup, it's good for the competition. It is a World Cup for a reason. It gives teams like Qatar a chance to play in the World Cup as well.
Absolutely.
Because the qualification stage for Asia is near impossible. I mean, I've seen you've got Asian teams having to play South American teams, which is, it's impossible really, because they haven't got the experience to play teams such as Argentina, for example, who are household names in that team. Now, bring it back to Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, there's a big division in our fan base at the moment. Ollie in, Ollie out. You got passionate Ollie in personnel. You got passionate Ollie out personnel. There's clashes all over the place. Where do you think United are going at the moment with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Do you think he's the right guy? And do you see him achieving anything come the end of the season? And what about the contract he's getting? They're offering him a new contract again. Is it the right thing? Is it the right move for Manchester United right now?
Yeah, so very interesting points that you made there, and the first one I want to touch on is I am Ollie, and give him time until the end of the season. And I know that we still have only a couple of months or so until the end of the season really comes around, but I just don't think it'd be fair to be Ollie out, considering the man is leading us potentially into a second place finish. Now the question that will come about, and very rightfully so, is how close of a second place finish we are to the first place, which is looks very much like this City leagues to win. It's sealed for them. So we don't want to be in a similar situation to how we were in when Mourinho finished second in that season, and we were double figures behind City in terms of points, and then the board didn't invest or back the manager in the summer. And then come Christmas, he was out of the job. Bring in a new manager, and let's go again and do the same thing and not get backed. And a couple of seasons later, we're no better off than where we were with the previous manager. And so, do I think Ollie's the right man? Put it this way: Ollie would not, be the manager of a top-level club the size of Manchester United anywhere else other than United. He's given the job because he's a club legend, and he's earned it at the time where he got it, because he, in his role as interim manager, his record was immaculate. I believed back then, and I still believe that he should have been given until the end of the season before we evaluate and give him the full-time role. But now that he's in a job, I think he is. He has done a tremendous job in the league, considering the fact that we haven't been backed properly by the board last summer. It was a shambolic summer. We needed to bring in a right winger. We needed to bring in a centre back. We needed to bring in a centre defensive midfielder. None of these positions were filled, not adequately at least. We still need a striker, but for example, we brought in a striker on loan that is, not at his best at the moment. He's past his years. So he hasn't been backed properly, and not given the players that he wanted. And so you can't really fairly evaluate the manager when you consider that he hasn't been backed properly by the board. So it comes back to the big question that we've always spoken about. The board isn't ambitious enough. Okay, if we get top four, that's going to be suffice for them to just keep the manager on. I don't agree that we should give him an extension regardless of the outcome. I think we should evaluate. End of the season, if he gets second, we give him a 2-year extension. He gets top four but not second place, we give him 1-year extension, right? Because he still has a year left after this, from the summer onwards. And we see where he goes from there. But we haven't been performing well in the trophies, in the cups. With the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. We've gone crashing out of these competitions, and we haven't even progressed past the group stage in the Champions League. So it hasn't been a good season outside of the Premier League by all accounts. So I understand the frustration. Where I don't agree with United fans, and this might spark a little bit of a debate on social media, is the constant flipping back and forth, and the flip-flops that you get, where people are, one day they're Ollie in, one day they're Ollie out. So if you're Ollie in and you're consistent, then I have a little bit more respect for you than if you're constantly all in or out, and vice versa as well. For the people who are all out, I understand their point of view and I respect it, and I see where they're coming from. But I'm a little bit torn at the moment, and I would say it would be slightly ill-advised of me to actually go all out, considering the fact that he's still managing us and we're second in the league.
Yeah, 100% agree. Beginning of the season, I was Ollie in, and I was blaming the Glazers. I said, if the Glazers don't, it's all over YouTube. If they don't spend the money, I'm not going to blame Ollie. The only thing, the worry with me as the season went on, is the questionable decisions Ollie makes in game management. There's a little bit of favoritism there as well, which is a bit worrying. He has his favourites. The way Donny van der Beek has been treated as well. I don't think it's been fair. those are the slight worries for me. I mean, of course, the Glazers are the big problem. The board are the big problem. I mean, every time we have a chance to go on and invest and improve and win major trophies, we don't. So obviously, the Glazers are the big problem. But Solskjaer as a tactician, is he versatile enough? Does he have the game management, the in-game management, the skills to take us over the line? I mean, he steadied the ship, I agree, and he deserves credit for that. He did steady the ship. He's got rid of a lot of players. But do you think he's the manager to take us to that next level, to challenge for the league consistently and go for the Champions League as well?
A simple answer is no. I believe that he is a better man manager than a tactician. I think his man management skills, the way that all the players speak about how he gets a fine tune out of them and gets the best out of them and gets them up for games. When and there are some games where I look at the players and I'm like, you don't really need to be. You don't need the manager to actually be up for that game. But granted, Oli behind the scenes does a very good job of having that good feel factor, the good vibes with the players and with the camp. Tactically, he's been questionable. You've mentioned the favoritism. The Donny van de Beek situation actually is a very interesting one for me to look at as a case study, because there's a player who, by all accounts, Real Madrid were looking at, the big clubs wanted, but clearly he's out of favor with the manager. Clearly, the manager was looking at the likes of Jack Grealish in the summer and didn't get him, and then United went for a cheaper option. And it seems as though this is not the player that Oli wanted in the club, else he would have been playing him more regularly. And so that also speaks to who's making decisions behind the scenes and who's bringing in these players. Obviously, we know that the recent announcement of the director of football has happened, and it was an internal, selection. But we go back to that same question and we ask ourselves: are these footballers or players that we're bringing in as recruits, are they being chosen by the manager? Are they aligned with the overall ideology that we want to instill at the club? Now, in terms of Oli, I think you've gotten a little bit of insight into how he thinks in the most recent interview he's had at United, where he's spoken about the players that he felt were the most improved ones this season. The likes of McTominay seem to be, his favorites, among his favorites. He's got a few players also that he loves to keep playing, the likes of Lindelof, Dan James, where some fans might not understand why he keeps playing them regularly and not giving the likes of, perhaps Van de Beek, Twanzebe, and other players the chances that they should probably deserve and the more game time that they need. So I don't think tactically he's the man to elevate us from the kind of team that plays fast and ferocious on the counterattack and sets up in a rigid way with two center defensive midfielders, like blanketing the center backs and protecting them and shielding them. I don't think he's going to be the manager who takes us from that to a point whereby we're expressive and playing on the wings and fast attacking football and having that sort of onus to take the game to the team that we're playing against. Most of the games that we've won this season are just 1-0s, 2-1s, grinding out a result. And so I'm yet to see the evidence of anything else other than that. And until I see otherwise, I'm still going to maintain that Oli is not the right man to win us titles consistently one after the other. But you've got to give him the resources to actually prove whether or not he's capable. Lampard was given that, and he didn't prove that he was capable. But it's always that question with Oli: is he being backed? And are we seeing the best we can from him or not? So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you said Lampard, because Lampard obviously qualified for the next round of the Champions League. We went out to a team that is mid-table in Turkey and lost to Leipzig as well. As proven, they're a very average side when they played Liverpool. It was that game against Leipzig that really got to me. It was the 7 defensive players. The fear tactics. We don't want to lose rather than try and win the game. I thought if we went for that game and played a bit more adventurous, we would have been in the Champions League next round. But he just went far too defensive and he basically threw away the game. And that's one of my biggest regrets for Ole this season is that game, is the Champions League. As you said, in any elite club in the world, he wouldn't have lasted after that. They would have got rid of him after that. Lampard, Chelsea, showing what a serious club does. They got rid of Lampard, got Tuchel, and look what's happening to Chelsea now. They're elevating and they're a big threat, for next season. I feel. I just feel like as you've been touching on, his tactics are not up there with the elite managers. He gives the club a feel good factor, gets some players, gives them confidence and that. But you need more than that. You need a manager. You need someone who's, going to tell you you're not good, you're not playing well, rather than smiles after we lose. That's another thing. And sitting on the touchline with his iPad, it's everything. It's a bunch of things that have come into play with me. And it's, I wanted to give him my support. I do give him my support, but I just, as you said, give him to the end of the season and we see where we go from there. Giving him a contract is completely naive. We've been there before. We were on a fantastic run then when we gave him that new contract. And then we just went down and down and down, So why are we going to do it again? It makes no sense. It just gives him too much of a comfy feeling, like, my job's safe regardless. Do you feel like we're getting too comfortable? Do you feel like we might be in danger of diving into the realms of an Arsenal territory? Top 4 is good enough.
Oh gosh, God forbid Arsenal territory. But no, I do understand your frustration, especially with backing the manager when there isn't sufficient evidence to say that he is taking us forward. The other thing as well, rewarding terrible performances from some of the players that would be considered his favorites and keeps playing them regardless of how they perform and how bad they are, and everybody can visibly see that they're not working and not fitting in with the system. And so that's also a real concern. I do think that he's been helped massively by, the elephant in the room, Bruno Fernandes, coming in last January or January of last year, 2020. And that's really come at a time where a lot of question marks were put on whether he should continue in the role. So no, I do have that fear, to be honest, that and we say this every year, don't we? We say that this next summer is going to be a massive summer because it's going to give us an indication of where the board wants to take the club and whether we are really serious of mounting a title challenge, or are we just comfortable with being in the top 4 regularly, season in, season out. Because one thing you also cannot blame Oli for doing, whilst he bleeds the club and he loves Manchester United and he wants to see us challenge for the big titles again, the Champions League, the Premier League, he can only do as well as the resources he's given. That's number one. Number two, if the expectations of the board and the targets that have been set internally with him are such that get us to the top 4 and we'll be, satisfied with that, then, by the board's evaluation and by his evaluation internally, he'll be doing a good job. Now, us as fans will be frustrated with that because we don't think that's good enough. And we feel like United should be up there with the elites of world football. But, that's what happens when there's a disconnect between where the fans expect us to be and where the board wants us to be. And so, no, I do have that fear. And I hope that we are going to invest not just in bringing in players, but also having the systems in place that make sure that we're constantly challenging with the likes of Liverpool and City, because we are miles behind them at the moment.
Yeah, well, definitely miles behind City, that's for sure. The one thing I would say is that when Oli was a player, he was happy to sit on the bench. And there was one time I remember he could have went to any club in the world. I remember Real Madrid were after him as well. I mean, does that show a lot about his character, that he was happy to sit on the bench? Does that rub off onto his managerial style, that he's content and he's just happy to just see the job through to get us top 4 and that's it? Not going for the joke, not going for the throats and winning something, actually going for it like Sir Alex used to do. Does his playing style match his managerial style?
That's an interesting point, actually. I've never considered it before having heard this from yourself right now. I would say that it's, again, I would go back to it and say slightly unfair. Like if Oli was playing Football Manager now and had, or career mode on FIFA and had the 200+ million to spend every summer, then we'll really know whether he's happy or content with accomplishing, the bare minimum and not going for the jugular, not going for the big competitions. But I do see your point in the sense that he strikes me as a bit of a yes man. He's not going to be the type of manager who's going to enter the dressing room and ruffle a few feathers. I saw his interview and he mentioned that I don't really interact a lot with the players until I go in to give them instructions and I put on the serious face because I'm the boss, and I'm not gonna sit around and talk to them a lot about the expectations and all these different kind of things. And he did mention who the players behind the dressing rooms were, who were outspoken and very vocal. But back to your point about whether he's going to be that type of manager who's really going to have that mentality of ruthlessness. You can make the argument that, okay, let's put Roy Keane in there because he was the player who, dragged the club through title after title, and he was the most outspoken player. You don't mess with Roy Keane. But I also think there's a certain element of, Oli might be more suited to the managerial style of modern day football today, where players need to be, having their arms around the shoulder and then patted a little bit and spoken to too gently and having that smile on your face and dealing very diplomatically with the agents. And I think Oli does a decent job of that. Now, the big question also comes is he a yes man? Is he going to pander to the board's wishes, and he's not going to question what decisions that they're making and not going to call them out for it if they don't bring in the players that he wants, like like Mourinho did, for example, or other managers would do. So again, not sufficient evidence to say one way or the other, and I don't want to be sitting on the fence in every question you ask me, but I just want to give you the picture as I see it, and I think he is a bit of a very cozy personality to speak with, and he's not going to ruffle a lot of feathers. I don't see him as that at least. Yeah, maybe that speaks to why he was on the bench. Correct.
Yeah, I feel like with Roy Keane, he's too much on the other side. I mean, you got to have a balance. Alex Ferguson used to know who to put his arm around. He used to know who to give the hairdryer treatment to. Different personalities have different reactions to different things. And I feel like you got to be versatile with people. You got to be a people person, and you got to transform your personality to a personality, that isn't you, and etc. That makes a great manager, in my opinion, who can give the hairdryer treatment. I mean, I remember there was a story, the Crystal Palace game, Man United in the 90s when Cantona kicked the fan and
Kung Fu kick, yeah.
Kung Fu kick. And I remember him going into the I don't remember, I wasn't there, but I heard about him going into the dressing room and shouting at all the players, giving them a rollicking. And he went to Cantona and goes, "Eric, don't do that again." Then he went on to the next player. And because he knew the reaction Eric would have. Eric was passionate. He would have answered back. He would have, his pride would have taken over. I feel like that's what makes a great manager. It might seem unfair for other players, but being versatile is important for me. And I just think Ole is too nice. And I mean, in trophy-winning football, you've got to be ruthless, and Absolutely. You've got to be cutthroat. This team want to beat us. They want to take our trophy from us. So I saw it in the Sevilla game. I saw it in the Chelsea game last season. And that was my only worry with him. When the going gets tough, hopefully we won't see it in the Europa League, but I have a bad feeling about it. I think we'll probably beat Granada, get to Roma or Ajax and blow it, and that's what I don't want to see from United. And I just hopefully we can get over that hurdle, get over that line to build a winning mentality, because winning trophies does build a winning mentality. So hopefully we do. But in my opinion, it doesn't bode well when we're offering him a new contract. And it shows that our lack of ambition, because we haven't achieved nothing yet. Why are we rewarding mediocrity? Why? I mean, yes, we're second, but I was brought up supporting Man United where second was the best loser. I don't care about second. I remember when we, in 95, when we lost the league to Blackburn, and I was devastated. We came second, we came close, yeah. We lost it by a point, but I was devastated. Honestly, it ruined my whole summer. I just feel like we need this mentality back, and the club needs that mentality back. I mean, obviously, Solskjaer's done a good job. Who takes charge? I don't know. I mean, I would love to see Ten Hag or Nagelsmann take charge. I think they're fantastic managers and done really well. In your opinion, who would you choose if Ole did leave the club to be our next manager?
I got a lot of stick for this, Sal, at the time, and now it feels as though it's no longer a feasible option. And so I would second your view on Nagelsmann, because I think he would be a really great manager, and it would be a good step up for himself, and also a different style that he brings to the club. And I think it's more of a systematic approach to slowly getting us back to winning ways, and having that mentality that you've spoken about of ruthlessness and wanting to just challenge for every single competition, because it's really frustrating. Like you've spoken about Blackburn, a couple of decades ago or so, or even a bit longer than that. But don't go back a long time into how we were competing with City neck and neck until the last day of the season, in the early part of the last decade. In terms of the right manager to come in and take over the reins, in the event that Oli no longer is in charge, my feeling was always, and I felt like it was written in the stars, to have Pochettino come and coach us. I know he doesn't have the credentials in the sense that he hasn't won a major trophy, so you can't really say that, okay, he's won the league with Tottenham, or he's probably going to win the league with PSG. But let's face it, PSG win the league every year. He's going to be judged on how he performs in the Champions League and the European competition, and getting them that trophy which they're after. But I just felt at the time he was out of a job, and he was available, and it was the right time to go for him around Christmas time. But the club obviously decided to not do that, and now he's no longer available. But I just think Nagelsmann will be a really good choice to bring in, and if we're going to go for someone like from along the English managers, or someone like that, then it'd be good to see an up and coming manager, not young though, like someone who's acquired a little bit of experience, and has that under his belt, and comes in to coach United. But I don't see a wealth of British managers' talent at the moment that would be capable of taking United to that next level that we want to be at. So no, for me it would be Nagelsmann or Poch if you can poach him from PSG. But I just don't think it's going to be likely in the near future.
Yeah, the game's not blessed with a lot of great managers at the moment. I mean, there's a few that have got potential. It's not like back in the day when we had Capello and Ancelotti, and at the prime. I would choose obviously Ten Hag or Nagelsmann. I agree. Nagelsmann has done a great job at Leipzig. I saw a very good tactical display against Man United. Especially as we were playing the low block, and they beat us fairly easily. And I think it wouldn't be a bad shout to get Nagelsmann. But nostalgia FC, I call us at the moment. I think we've got too much nostalgia in our fan base. I think we're too nice, to managers at the moment, and I feel like you're not allowed an opinion other than the narrative, which is Ole in, otherwise you're a fake fan. In life you get criticism, and it's important you get criticism, whether you get criticism from your dad, you get criticism from your friends. It's like, oh, look, Sal, you're putting on a bit of weight, you want to lose some weight? Yeah, I should lose some weight. Yeah, because you care. You know what I mean? Right. It's like that. And that's how life should be. We don't criticize managers and players because we hate them. We just want the best for Manchester United. Now, bringing it onto the realms of online abuse, trolling, fake accounts, people photoshopping people, which they've done with me numerous amounts of time. I actually was a meme, Where do you think the game's going in regards to that? Is social media becoming an issue? Because we see last night, that Thierry Henry deleted his account, which is sad to see. Where's where does it stop in regards to social media, and what can be done about these trolls and this online abuse?
It's a very important question to ask, and it's a very fair statement to make. And in seeing Thierry Henry actually stop using any of his social media platforms yesterday and deleting all of his accounts, it's brought to light this matter again, which has been looked at and reviewed multiple times in the recent past, and now I've just read as well Gareth Southgate talking about how he urges his players and encourages them to follow suit and do the same. And A lot of the social media influencers, YouTubers, content creators have had a very difficult time. Twitter, in particular, in terms of voicing their thoughts and opinions, and not receiving this wave of discontent, hatred, just a mass of trolls. Just with no other intention other just to make them feel just horrible about themselves, and it's not constructive type of criticism, which is something that I don't associate with and I cannot understand. But it exists in the world that we live in, unfortunately, and I've always been of the opinion that as long as you are recognized and identified, and there is a sort of a record of who you are, you're not hiding behind a keyboard, you're not just creating a fake account who nobody knows your name, and you can just use any name and any location and change your IP address, and nobody will find out where you're from or who you are. That's where it's difficult, because there is no regulation. Anybody can just come and create an account and use it as means to just dish out visceral hate towards people, and you don't realize that there's someone on the other side of the screen. That these are real human beings that you're commenting on their content and talking to, and using them as for meme content on all these different kind of hatred sort of speech or content. So I think where it should stop, I think I've never been an advocate for regulation, in the sense that you would stop people from having their freedom of speech. I think it's important that we have this freedom of speech and not have everything be regulated to the point where you would tweet something and it would be questioned by these overlords in Twitter or Facebook, where they say that this content has actually been disapproved, or it's been fake, or it's been denounced, or it's not true. I think people should have an element of freedom of speech, but I think it should be regulated in the sense that you would be able to find out who this person is, and there is more of an oversight over being able to generate a profile on social media, and for the regulators to know who this person is and where they're located and stuff like that. And I'm not advocating for surveillance per se, but I'm just saying that it's important for us to be able to track movements on social media and to put a stop to this, because this isn't right. A lot of abuse has happened. We've seen it even recently with Fred and his mistake against Leicester City, and how much abuse he's gotten for it. And it's just not right. Whether it's racial abuse, discrimination, gender, hate as well. None of it is right, and it should be stopped. And the powers that be at Twitter, Facebook, all these different platforms need to take a serious look at themselves and hold up a mirror and see what they're not doing right, and act upon these kind of things. Because whenever a player, or ex-player in the case of Cherioni, brings this matter to light, it's a reminder for us that things are not okay, and we shouldn't just pretend and pull the wool over our eyes and think that things are okay. And I could not be more remorseful and sorry for how difficult you've had it as well, Sal. I know that in person, because I've spoken to you, and my heart goes out to the likes of yourself and others who've had to deal with this kind of hate.
Yeah, well, Shal, thank you, man. The thing is with it is that I can take it. I've got thick skin. I come from a background where criticism is criticism, and criticism's fine. I don't mind. I'm not perfect. We come from a background where we know we're not perfect. We're human beings, and it doesn't bother me. But, when people are making troll accounts to troll a troll and then say it's you, pretending it's you. So other trolls come to you and say, look how bad you are. You said that to that person and blah, blah, blah. It's so complicated. It's ridiculous almost. It's sad. People got the time of day to Photoshop, to make accusations. And I was bombarded with so much. There was a time I was trending on Twitter because of the abuse I was receiving when I had the interview with Jason McAteer, ex-Liverpool player, because people were so-called Man United players, fans said, I hope you die of AIDS and things like that. So I felt that as Man United fans, right, it's a rivalry, a sporting rivalry. It's not hate. We do not hate Liverpool. We do not hate Jason McAteer. You know, we have our banter, we have our, you know, on and off with. But my friends are Liverpool fans. I've got loads of Liverpool fans. I've got loads of Arsenal fans. But what I found distressing with the Man United fan base is that they're relentless trolls out there, that hundreds of them, if not thousands, who have decent platforms, who are followed by decent, you know, big, you know, decent content creators and the podcasts, whatever. I've even seen people, comedians and verified personnel attacking me, you know, because they're listening to the trolls. You know, I inadvertently, because I was getting so much abuse, abused someone back. For the first time I've ever done that. I don't usually respond to trolls. I left it for a year, but at that time I felt, you know what, that's enough. Enough is enough. And I went in and I swore at some girl. And then obviously once you swear, you're in the realms of you've fallen for it. And then they all come on you like that, you know, and they all start, you know, see, you're bad, you're rude, the way you talk to women, the way you do this, the way you do that. And it gets ridiculous. And I apologize to this girl because it ain't her fault. But the amount of abuse I was getting, it's getting too much.
It's out of proportion.
Yeah. And the racism is not just racism, it's continued trolling, continued atting my friends, atting my family, sending Photoshop pictures of me, you know, sending them around the internet, you know, writing comments on my YouTube, which terrible comments, vile comments, you know, and spreading it around. And, you know, it's embarrassing as a Man United fan. Very embarrassing. Even my brother, as a Liverpool fan, he said, boy, your fan base is embarrassing. You know, the way they're talking about you and stuff like that. And I did really, really well to hold myself, to keep holding myself, you know, and I originally got these trolls from supporting podcasts. I was supporting the United Stand. I was supporting all these other podcasts and, you know, showing them my support. Then they jumped on me, you know, and this is the thing. And then you got other huge podcasts like Stephen Howson and Stretford Paddock, you know, with millions of, you know, followers and subscribers all together, and trolling me to try and slander me as well, you know, because they're listening to the majority. Now, I had a season. The reason I call myself Stretford is because I had a season ticket in the Stretford End.
Stretford End, I remember that.
Yeah, and I had row A, front row, just behind the goal. And I used to sit next to a gentleman. He's been going since the 50s. And whenever I jump up, cheer, scream, shout, my team, he would say to me, sit down, you know, just sit down, stop acting stupid. So I moved my seat. So I'm scattered around the Old Trafford because of one person, even though I waited 8 years for my season ticket, you know, because I don't want to sit next to this person. Because he's self-righteous. He believes he's a bigger fan than everyone else. And that's the problem. People thinking they're a bigger fan than everyone else. We're all Man United fans. Not everyone is privileged to go to Man United games. Even me now living in London, I don't go to Man United games as much as I should. But, you know, we're all human beings. We have lives. You know, not all of us can go home and away to see Man United, you know, go to the away games. And this is the problem, the disturbing thing about it, because they don't know you in person either. Yeah. And they don't know anything about you, who you are, the work you do for charity, the nice person that you are. They just assume, and this narrative spreads around and it grows like bacteria. And then they just all believe the same thing. And, you know, some of them are top Reds who've had interviews with people like Eric Cantona, you know, had big interviews with Rio Ferdinand. And, you know, these people don't need to troll me. Why are they trolling me? Why? What is their problem with me? Is it something more serious than that? Do they not like the way I look? That's how you think. You shouldn't think that way, but you do.
Those type of things make you think that way, you know, and we're human at the end of the day. We always say that, you know, the approval of ourselves and our closest family members and friends is the most important thing in the world. But we also do care about the content that we put out there and the interactions that we have on social media. And those things take a toll. And you know, I'm aware that there's just so many trolls out there, people who have ample time on their hands to do these kind of despicable things. But the points that you've mentioned on people have a big platform. They're influencers. They've interviewed players, ex footballers, legends of the club, and these are the ones who you sort of look at them and you think, how it is to deal with trolls. You know how difficult it is to get a lot of abuse and hate online. So you more than anybody else should actually be aware of the mental strain and effect on someone's well-being this kind of thing can have, even you just sharing it without knowledge of whether or not it's true or valid. You should do a little bit of due diligence and research and make sure that these things, before sharing them on the massive platform that you've been given this wonderful gift of a huge following. You should be, the way that you express gratitude for that, and it's not my place to tell them how they do it, but the way that I would envisage if I did have a bigger following or that kind of voice on some of these platforms, is to make sure that I express gratitude and not affect anybody, certainly negatively, without first knowing the full picture and understanding where this person is coming from, and try to see it from his lens, in his eyes. And you're right, they don't know you as a person, the type of charity work you do, and you're not on this platform or on this channel to show that. You're not here to say, oh, look at all the beautiful things that I do. You're here to talk football and have an opinion, and you're entitled to the opinion that you have, and you have a right to voice your thoughts and input. And at the end of the day, it's not about, we've spoken about this before, it's not about the color of your skin or whether you go to away games or where you come from. There's this whole also movement where you're not allowed to be a United fan if you're not from Manchester. Well, I'm sorry, I'm from Oman. I'm from other side of the world. I love the club. I follow it. I religiously watch the games and talk about the club. And I fly 7 hours, whenever I can, to actually go and watch the football club. But if I'm not from Manchester, then that means, I'm put in a certain box. But I do understand your concerns, and it's very difficult. And something ought to be done about it. But especially, at least, us as a fan base, we have to try to look after each other, and there's not enough of that happening on social media. We're too divisive, and we're too out to get the other person, and that is really disheartening to see. That's the most sort of sad thing to actually bear witness to, as along with of course the horrendous instances where people are not being held to account on social media. You also see these kind of influencers and people with big platforms that are just exacerbating this level of abuse when they shouldn't be. So it's really unfortunate to see.
Yeah, totally agree, 100%. Especially, as during lockdown, where people are just, I don't know, where it's affecting them individually, but it is getting worse. I feel like, with me, I've always supported other people when they got bullied or online trolling. I always supported Mark Goldbridge when he got trolled. And, it was, I always put myself on the line for people, it's sad to see, but, when like someone like me, I feel like I'm on my own, these guys, thousands of them are attacking me, I've had people ring up my workplace. I've had people, in the street calling my name, throwing eggs, this, that, you name it. I've had it. I go for a run. I do charity work. They say I'm a fraud. I'm trying to make money. Like I'm running a marathon on August the 7th, and they will tell you. I put up a charity page, which is an official charity page. There's 10 of us running, and they say you're trying to make money out of fans and stuff, and you're like, come on, all right, I'm doing a run. I'm not going to put the GoFundMe page on. I'm just doing my run, and I'll keep you updated about my run. Forget about that. Why don't you join the run on August the 7th and go to the website? This is the sort of thing, and some of these are well-known Man United fans, and as you know, Mohammed, I do music as well. My brother's a musician, and my brother's done quite well. Alhamdulillah, he's done quite well, yeah. And he's getting abuse from the Man United fans. Bringing up his music, doing this, doing that. Messaging KSI, people that I knew from a long, long time ago, and I've had people unfollow me because of the trolling. And that's when it gets a little bit stupid, because
It does.
This is your work. This is what you're doing. This is your platform, and people are trying to slander it. And that's the problem. Why don't they get up and do something about them with themselves rather than hating on people? Now, in regards to they think we're making money from the club podcasts, the narrative is they're making money from the club. We're not making money from the club. You have to get 4,000 watching hours on YouTube to get paid, right? You have to get ridiculous amounts of views to get a decent amount of money. I mean, you got to hit literally hundreds of thousands per video, at least 300,000 per video. So if I'm interviewing you in this time, and today I probably earn 10p from YouTube, 10 pence, so it's ridiculous how their assumptions are, what they're, I do this as a hobby for fun. I love Man United. I love interviewing people. I love talking to people from around the world. I love, talking to other Man United fans, other football fans. And, just because it's going okay, they want to jeopardize that because they hate me. That's all it is. They hate me. Whenever I see someone doing well, I love it. It gives me confidence. It gives me it inspires me to do better. Like United Stand inspired me originally. I was a big United Stand fan, and that's where I came across you for the first time. And I was supporting him non-stop when they only had a few thousand followers. And the way he has grown, is fantastic. And just because I'm doing something similar, on a smaller scale, they hate it because they don't understand that life moves on. Technology moves on. The way things are done now is not just on TV. You have to accept that, you're going to have podcasters now. This is life now. This is the way life is. And if you can't progress and move on, then just don't watch it. Don't go on Twitter. Don't go on Facebook, because they're all social media platforms, so they're all making money from you. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't do his job for free. He gets paid from the club.
Yeah, and the thing is, the point that you were making about them questioning whether you're making money from the club, I mean, far from it. Even if you get to the point where you are making money off of your content, you've already made the club money actually in the process of giving them this amount of visibility and speaking about them and having all this fan interaction, and maybe you'll be able to manage actually getting a few fans to sway and look at United and support them and then follow them in a more extensive way. And this new wave of media right now is here to stay. We are new media, and on YouTube, whether it's other platforms, has generated a lot of interaction, a lot of excitement, a lot of people engagement, in terms of watching, and I just feel like the change is the only constant in this world. And so why challenge it? We do live in a world where people are sort of adverse to change, but if anything, if the past couple of years are anything to go by, what we've seen, we should be accustomed to the reality that things are going to change constantly, and we have to allow ourselves to be comfortable in that discomfort. But I'm not here to give you any sort of intentional positive advocacy, other than just to say, listen, even when I was doing YouTube, and I've done YouTube for I think it was a year and a half almost, that's when I had a real appreciation for how difficult it is to do YouTube and to actually generate quality content and have videos out there, and the amount of time behind the scenes that goes into actually putting something on your channel. It's not easy. The amount of sort of promotion that you have to do on your social media platforms, reaching out to people, telling them to look out for this coming video being posted out, and to try to get that engagement interaction going. It's not easy. It's hard work. It takes up many hours of your day. So it's not just us sitting here and talking and having a good conversation. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. And to do this as a hobby, as a side gig to your actual main job, that's even more admirable, because it's very difficult to carve out the time to do something like that. And so whenever I see the likes of yourself, content creators, I show that appreciation and that support, because I feel like, all right, they're trying to do something with their platform, and they're actually putting a message out there. Yes, they're opinionated. I might not agree with everything that they say, but I'm not going to go, just be out to put them down just because they have a different opinion than I do, and they've had differences in the way that they've come to sort of recognition, and how they've been spotted on social media. So I just think it's very ingenuine how people are constantly out there to get you, and I couldn't be more remorseful and resentful for it. And my heart goes out to the likes of yourself and others who have been subject of the social media abuse. But I will say you're not alone, Sal, in the sense that I am also like thinking in my head. I'm like, it's a good thing that he has a brother that actually has a very decent following, alhamdulillah, mashallah, and he's a singer and he's doing very well. But he must have also a very thick skin, or he has to, because
Yeah.
he gets also a lot of abuse, unfortunately, and that's the way that social media is nowadays.
Yeah, he once had a woman travel 300 miles to send leaflets out in the town
Oh my
centre
goodness.
about him. Yeah, and when he went, when we reported it, nothing was done. What the problem is they're waiting for something serious to happen before it's addressed, and that's the worst thing about it, because that could be the serious thing that ends someone. And that
Yeah.
could be the worst thing, because not only that, I've seen death threats. I've had death threats indirectly, and it's yeah, we know. I just take it on the chin because they're just snitching themselves. It doesn't really mean anything, but you never know with people. There's a lot of crazy people out there, and I think it needs to be addressed. You're absolutely spot on
Absolutely.
with it. Yeah, and
And
I think that whether they bring out a passport system on Twitter, one account per person, I don't know, but it needs to stop. And the slandering, harming people's businesses, like that when you're doing something, you're working hard, you're trying to achieve something, people are out there to destroy it, whether it's jealousy, bitterness, I don't know, but sometimes it's a bit like embarrassing to be a Man United fan in regards to these fans when you're associated with these fans. And I was these last few months. I won't lie. I was like, do you know what? I'm associated with these fans. These Man United fans. I've been going for years. I've travelled the world to Man United. You see, when you go to Man United, a guy coming from Oman. I used to leave work in the evening, get a coach up to Manchester from London overnight, get a plane on Champions League night, go to the town centre, watch the game, straight after the game, back on the plane, overnight coach back to London, back on the train, back home. And then I got
it'd be
work.
worth it. It'd be worth doing all of that
And
just
it'd be
because
worth it,
you support the club and you love it. Yeah.
Exactly. And that shows you that it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're going to have that ignorant view of football, you might as well not have, players from different countries playing in your team. They might as well be all from Manchester. When they're calling me a Cockney, this, that, because I'm from London, they all cheered when David Beckham in 1999 crossed the ball for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to score the winner. He's from London. He's from the same town as me. So again, this it's getting a bit too much now. There's a lot of them around, and when you do retaliate, when you do go out of your character just to defend yourself, because obviously there's only so much you can take. You're the bad guy.
Yeah.
They start giving the waterworks, crying, and pointing the finger at you and everyone. I had one guy who's quite known, and he's been on the United stand, say, Sal, what you said there was totally out of order. Out of order. And I said, do you know what they said to me? Do you know what they said to me? And they don't want to listen. It's like, and this guy, he's the same guy. He's been on United stand as well. It weren't flexing all them lot, but it was one Malakians. I've forgotten it. Philip
Fair enough.
De Bruyne. Yeah.
Fair enough. But the thing is, I would second that or add to that by saying that no matter what that person has said to you, they're always going to shed the light and put the spotlight on what you say, because at the end of the day, it's the platform that you have, and they're all constantly out to get you, like you said, and you're human at the end of the day. So there's only so much that one person can take, and they're always throwing the bait there and hoping that you take it, right? And then in that moment of weakness or out of character sort of reaction, and you would have immediately known that. Actually, I'm sure that as soon as you did that, you would have in your recollection and reflection said, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But at the end of the day, you're human, and the way in which they call people football fans they tend to be fickle. Sometimes they don't realize that. And I understand it in the sense that football is a very emotion filled game, but you have to also take that out of the equation sometimes and have a little bit of a nuance about it and say, okay, like, we're all ultimately supporting the same football club, and we have to have that, shared passion, and that's what unites us towards supporting Manchester United. Because I used to do it as well. I used to like travel, and I'd take time out of my work, days off. I would travel. There was one time I went from Oman to Paris to Birmingham. I arrived to Birmingham airport, and the lady was asking me, she's like, so why are you here? She saw like on my passport, I'm only here for a couple of days. And I told her I'm here to watch United versus Wolves away. And she didn't believe me at the time, and she was like, no way, you're only here to watch United versus Wolves. Like, what kind of life do you have? And I told her, well, this is the love I have for the football club. So I took the train from Birmingham City Centre all the way to Wolverhampton, and it was a very rainy Sunday night. But that's what you do. That's the lens you go to. But just on your point, and to close this topic, which is a very important one, the extent and the degree and the length to which people go to, you can never know. There are just so many troubled and difficult to know people out there on social media that you just cannot decipher what they're going to do and what lens they're going to take, and we cannot wait until there's physical harm and there's something that's irreversible that you can't come back from. We have to do it. We have to tackle this before, whether it's on social media or also the authorities when you involve them. These things are serious, and even the law enforcement need to look at social media abuse on par with some of the other types of abuse that they're associated with normally. And so, no, this isn't right, and it has to be addressed. It has to be addressed. And the way that we keep bringing this to the fore and talking about it, is to put the spotlights on these type of instances, because I think that's how we get to a point whereby something is done about it.
100%. On a lighter note, to finish things off, to wrap things up, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We've got who we got at the weekend. This weekend we're playing, I believe. We're not playing Everton, are we? Are we playing Everton? I think so. I'm not sure, but. Right. It's International Week. It's just got me all blurry,
Yeah.
When it's International Week, I just, I cut off from football completely and stuff. So, yeah, because so, what would you feel would be an acceptable season for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer come the end of the season?
I was really disappointed when we left the FA Cup. I will be honest when I say that. I mean, obviously the Leipzig result was the one that has the bitter taste in the mouth still. But the Leicester game, I thought it was there for the taking, and he didn't play the strongest side from the very beginning, and I felt like we'd never approached that game with the intention to win. We're out of the FA Cup now, and so it's no use dwelling on it. But I just felt like that was the competition in which we could have stopped City from potentially taking all three domestic titles, and then also having a run at the quadruple, which still is out there to play for them. Whether they're not they're going to get it, it's a different matter. But we're not there to stop them anymore from doing something like that. But what I feel like would be an acceptable season for Ole is to finish second in the league, because obviously first is no longer something that's feasible. I think it's City's league, and they're running away with it. But to finish with a respectable second place, I think it's going to be really important mentally for the players and for the coaching staff and for the whole system at the club if we finish within single digits of City and not within double digits. I know it's going to be difficult, but once they've got the league sewn up and they're going to reach the latter stages of the FA Cup and the Champions League, they're going to take the foot off the gas a little bit in the league. And I think that's an opportunity for us to actually catch up with them a little bit. If we finish within single digits, and there's that margin of error that's small, then you can look at it next season and say, well, what were the games that we could actually improve and make sure that we don't, that Southampton game at home where we drew in the last moment, the Sheffield United loss, that these away home games that we shouldn't have lost against smaller clubs or teams that are low in the table. You could look at that and say, well, if we overturn 2 or 3 results, we can actually challenge. But if you finish well behind City, and I'm saying 15 points plus, then it's not progress. Yes, we've gone from third to second in the league, but we're not progressing in terms of difference between us and the title winners. So I think a second place finish in the league with a decent, improvement in terms of the points difference between us and the first place. And going far into the Europa League would be a good turnout for this season. I don't know if we're going to be enough to actually win the Europa League. I think there's still a couple of teams there. Ajax, you mentioned, Roma as well, who will give us a difficult time in the semifinals or final potentially. But the challenge for Europa League would be good, and to reach the final would be something that I would class as improvement on from last season.
100%. Mohammed, Armani Mancunian, thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure, a really good insight into things. Hope you could join me another time, and come on, let's hope it gets better, eh? Let's hope United win something this season, and we got something to cheer about at the end of the season, and all the fan base are positive and happy and supporting each other. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely,
man.
Absolutely. Inshallah, keeping faith high for that, and pleasure to be on here. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it, Sal.
You're welcome, bro. Cheers.